Welcome to the CASA 4x4. This 4x4 is driven by Grahame Dixie, Executive Director of Grow Asia. The 4x4s are 4 expert viewpoints with 4 minutes to share their views. Why is Grow Asia so successful?
What is different about Grow Asia is that we work regionally, that we have 6 country partnerships. If you had 6 individual countries, you'll probably have the normal breakdown. 2 of them would be brilliant, 2 of them would be adequate, 2 of them would be failing. But by cross-pollinating the learnings between them, we build up their skills. And one of the key skills is how do you get those dialogues to happen? And here we apply, that aphorism, you manage what you measure. So they form, we have actually more like 580 partners now, and they form working groups around particular topics, mainly around value chains. When we measured the measured capacity of these working groups, we found them to be very variable. So a score out of 5, the best were 4.2 and the lowest was 0.4, and the average was 2.2 out of 5. In other words, they were failing. But you won't get that, because actually if you put Corteva and Bayer in the same room with a farmer cooperative and the Minister of Agriculture, they've never sat down and had this conversation before. And occasionally you'll get some exceptional characters who would champion a working group and make it happen, but mostly they didn't know how to do it. And so by distilling what is in business practice called the positive deviance, it sounds a bit weird, but actually to find what were the characteristics of the successful working groups, and then to disseminate that work to the working groups. Because what we saw was a correlation between the measured capacity of a working group and their results. And there is another aphorism, which is whatever you attend to, you get more of. And we have always focused on results, and results at scale. There's no point, changing the lives of 200 farmers. It's interesting, but it's not important. What's important is to really change the lives of thousands of farmers. And that leads us on to 2 other things. One is, we're a service organization. So we ask people, the sector and the partners, why do you join Grow Asia? What are your priorities? And they say, number 1, it's to learn. We don't want to make expensive mistakes. We want to learn from one another. Number 2 is to find like-minded partners who we can work with. And number 3 has changed a bit. It was initially, we want a collective voice in the policy dialogue. The fourth, the one that is now number 3, is actually they like to sense that they're part of a partnership which is making a difference. In other words, something that gives them a sense of purpose beyond what they do. And I think it's that kind of combination. And by having measured results, it gives us the credibility, because everybody wants to advise the government about policies. If you want to change policies, you need to be credible, and actually having measured field results on the ground gives you that credibility. So it's out of that the ASEAN ministers said, we want guidelines for responsible investing. Can you help us make that happen? That they said, the fall armyworm has arrived in Asia. Can't we deal this regionally rather than individual countries? When we spoke to different partners across the region and said what would truly make a difference to the relationship between agricultural enterprises and smallholder farmers, they scratched their heads and then they said digital, and went into details about digital. And then they said, the goalposts are moving so quickly, we can't really keep up with what the technology. So by creating a learning process around what were the critical things coming through in the digital sector, and then finally in COVID, that actually to be able to use Zoom like this to bring in partners from all the different sectors all across the region, focus them on particular topics, which was first mile connectivity, what was the impact of mobile money, the massive expansion in digital marketing platforms, and the needs for investment. It gave the credibility that that by getting the collective wisdom of that disparate group, you could come up with smarter decisions. So it's essentially, if you can get that conversation to happen, you can and do make better decisions. But the core thing is this: you need to have all of those partners agreeing on the definitions of success. And there are many things that you can never get them to agree about. GMOs would be one. So we apply a thing called the 60-40 rule, which is probably about 60% of the topics you can talk about, 40% you never do because you'll just get disagreement.
Visit the event page of the CASA website to see recordings of other expert viewpoints shared in the CASA 4x4s and webinar series.